One thing that Lewis structures allow us to do is to know a little bit about the characteristics of a molecule. Here are 3 different molecules, all very similar to one another. They're all hydrocarbons, and they all contain 2 carbons. This one's ethane, this one's ethene, and this one's ethyne. If I take a look at this, the big difference between them is the number of bonds between the carbon atoms. In ethane, we have 1 bond between the carbon atoms. In ethene, we have 2, and ethyne, we have 3. Now, if we wanted to break that bond, remember, we would have to put energy into the bond to break it. And what I'm showing you below each of these is what's called the bond dissociation energy. If I want to break the bond, the C to C bond in ethane, for a mole of gaseous carbon bonds of ethane, I'd have to put in about 350 kilojoules of energy. On the other hand, for ethene, I'd have to put in 620 kilojoules. And for ethyne, I'd have to put in 840. So this is a much more stable bond than this one is. It's much more difficult to break this than it is to break this. Also, something else to know about Lewis structures is when you take a look at the length of the bond, you can get some information as well. So for example, in ethane, the bond length is 154 picometers. It gets shorter when you go to ethene and even shorter when you go to ethyne. So as you add bonds from a single bond to a double bond to a triple bond, the bond gets shorter and it also gets stronger. Now, as you might expect, as you move down the periodic table, bonds also tend to get longer. So for example, HF, HCl, HBr, and HI, the bonds get longer and longer and longer, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the atoms themselves get bigger and bigger and bigger. Iodine is a much bigger atom than fluorine is. Now, that has something to do with its strength too. The length of the bond is correlated to its strength. A very short bond is a very strong bond. On the other hand, a very long bond tends to be a weaker bond. So there are 2 factors that influence bond strength that we need to know about. The first is the number of bonds. Single, double, triple. A triple is always stronger than a double is always stronger than a single. But after we've established that, then it's the length. In single bonds, the weakest bond will be the longest bond. The strongest bond will be the shortest bond. So that's the first piece of information that we can use to interpret Lewis structures.